Hi, everybody. Jack here with you. Friday evening's update. I hope you're well. Some things to discuss today. I am recording this a little bit early. I think I've got the governor's latest stuff in, so I think I'm in good shape. But I am recording a little bit early because it's a nice night and I want to go barbecue. You know, we're running out of those days. Though I barbecue during the winter too. You live in Michigan, you can't let that stop you. And I do have to say, I went and saw Jill today. She cut my hair again. If you remember back during the lockdown, hair was a big issue. But she sent me a note, said, I noticed in your updates your hair was looking a little shaggy. So thanks, Jill. Let's see here. Some things in the news today. The governor has come out with some new orders, another executive order to which is like a 185 or something like that. Now, again, talk about micromanaging, you know. Yeah, I won't be too flippant here. Try to be respectful. Indoor gatherings currently at 10 for non-residential, basically anything outside your home, changing. In the southern part of the state, basically, let's start over. She's changed the number of indoor gatherings. Regions 6 and 8 are a little bit different than the other parts of the state. So when I say southern, I mean everything other than 6 and 8, okay? For the southern part of the state, you can go up to 20 people per 1,000 square feet, or 20% capacity, if you will, with a max of 500 indoor gatherings. So again, 20% capacity up to 500 people. Outdoor, it's 30% capacity. Why, I don't know, but that's what it is. 6 and 8, it has gone up a little bit. Indoor can go to 25%, a little bit more than the rest of the state, but outdoor would remain the same. The other big news, I guess, is that the governor has said she's granting clemency to movie theaters and other indoor entertainment venues. They get to reopen in a week or more, a couple of weeks, on October 9th. Movie theaters, arcades, bingo halls, things like that will get to reopen with protocols. But again, these are businesses that should have been open months ago because their protocols were in place. Couple other things. This one, kindergarten, again, every region but 6 and 8. So again, 6 and 8, because we're in phase 5, have a little bit different rules. But if you're in that southern part of the state, the folks there, kindergarten and up, students are going to have to wear face coverings in all regions but 6 and 8. So again, my folks in Mason County, you're not in 6 and 8, so the kids are going to have to wear face coverings, which again is mind-boggling because as I've talked to many educator, kindergarten, they're not going to be wearing those things, but they'll get hauled out. It's goofy. The other thing that I think is interesting, I don't know enough on this to comment in great detail, but I read another story today that said the racial disparity in the COVID has all but disappeared. So I guess the amount of people who are not of color have caught up to those of color with the COVID. So again, it makes me think, and I'm no doctor, but I do have to say there was a concern that folks of color were hit harder. Well, now that's evened up. So I guess that means the COVID doesn't know, which I kind of figured anyway. But again, from a logical standpoint, with all due respect, Southeast Michigan has more folks of color than other parts of the state. And Southeast Michigan is the area that got hit the hardest early on. So it just seemed like, well, that kind of sort of makes sense. It's unfortunate, but it kind of made sense. But so for what it's worth, the racial disparity of the COVID is now history. This one I kind of saved for last because I was on the House floor yesterday we're passing budgets and things, and I want to talk about that in a minute. But I'm on the House floor, and we're in between things, so I'm sitting reading the headlines, and the state is now advising you on how to do Halloween. And what they're saying is Halloween, you should wear a Halloween themed cloth mask instead of the classic Halloween mask. So you want a Halloween themed cloth mask. That'll really make that, goblin really scary with just the cloth mask. But what the heck? They say they want you to trick or treat with only people you live with, which is kind of what most people do anyway. Avoid congregating in groups at homes. So I guess that means don't bunch up when you're trick-or-treating. Only go to homes with safety measures in place. Now, I don't exactly know that. We're going to put a little, if you have a blinking pumpkin that says you're safe. How do you know? One-way trick-or-treating. So I guess that means they don't want you coming, get your trick-or-treating and then going back past people on the porch. You're going to have to come up the porch, get your treat, and then jump off. I don't know. You want to talk about micromanaging life. When you go to the door, you need to hold the bag at this level because it's easier. Come on, people. But it gets better. One-way trick-or-treating. If you're passing out candy, use duct tape. The state is telling you. What if I want to use painter's tape? Nope, you got to use duct tape. Painter's tape don't count. What if I want to make a chalk line? Chalk line don't count. State says duct tape. Freaking ridiculous. If you're passing out candy, use duct tape to mark 6-foot lines up to the door or driveway. Positioning a distribution table between the kids and you for distance, because you don't want to get close to the little goblins. And it says, do a Zoom Halloween gathering instead of an in-person Halloween party. So, if you use painter's tape or chalk instead of duct tape, shame on you. Oh, God. You must comb your hair in the COVID proper. Brushing your teeth this way prevents COVID. Oh, so things other than COVID that I think I want to touch base on because it's important. That, again, people don't think about, and, we're leading our lives. This week, some good things happened in Lansing. We passed a budget. Now, I know that when I talk about the things that we passed, there's going to be somebody who says, yeah, but you dummies didn't do this. You get that no matter what happens. The elected folks come together because we're your representatives and senators, and the governor's budget people, the House government people, and the Senate's government budget people come together and they talk it through. And this passed with flying colors. So is it a perfect budget? No. Actually, we're darn lucky. I talked about this on Wednesday. We're darn lucky because our money situation, for lots of reasons, which I talked about on Wednesday, is in so much better shape. But a couple things that I think are important that we passed through with the budget and other legislation here before we finished up this week. So, let's do budget first, then I'll talk about the other thing. Couple things that you don't hear a lot about, but revenue sharing. That is the money that goes back to our local communities. Could it be more? Heck yes, and it needs to be more. But one of the big concerns was that there's an old saying, if there ain't no revenue, there ain't no sharing. Well, the revenue sharing is money that comes back from taxes to the locals. And there was big concern that there'd be a major hit to our locals because tax revenues would be down. The good news is it's pretty much even from last year. So no increase, but no cuts. So that's important because that's what local communities use to help take care of local services. So that's good news. Again, not something you hear about in the news a lot, but I think it's important for people to know. The revenue sharing, could it be better? Yes, we need to get better, but at least it's not worse than it was last year. Also, we were able to include the Going Pro initiative, which is a good thing. It'll help people to get into the trades and learn and get those jobs started. Again, it's one of the programs, but it had been cut. Well, it's now back in, so that's good. Pure Michigan also is back in, not to the funding I'd like, but it's back. Remember, it got zeroed out by our governor a year ago. And I know a lot of pros and cons. People can argue about Pure Michigan. I am a believer in it. It really helps the economy of Northern Michigan and the state as a whole. Because again, I go back, Detroit is the comeback city. Well, if we aren't promoting it, nobody knows that. So I'm glad Pure Michigan is back. We got to get it backer, but it's back. The other thing that I think is very important that passed out this week, you may have seen something about it, and it's just like anything. It's there's some detail to it that I'm not going to get into at this moment. But criminal justice reform is now headed to the governor's desk, and what this did is basically if you've committed a felony in the state of Michigan, and you go for a job, and it says, "Have you ever been convicted of a felony?" You got to write yes. Well, that would then make somebody say, "Well, thanks for signing up, but no, we don't want you." Well, if you are a criminal, it's important for people to know these things. But what happened to that person who has been rehabilitated? They've served their time, they've paid their debt to society, but yet they're labeled with this felony forever. And it hurts them in job finding and getting back into society, because we all believe in second chances, right? So what the criminal justice reform did is said this: if you've committed a non-violent felony, think, well, there's all sorts of things, but think, traffic offenses, think marijuana use. After 10 years of being clean, you've had no strikes, no marks on your record. After 10 years of being clean and having worked through your punishment, your debt to society, after 10 years, it's clean. And now on that form, if it says, have you been convicted of a felony, you can legally write no, because we've set aside that your record's been cleared, if you will. So I think that's huge, because there's a lot of people in Michigan who had one bad night, 20 years ago, and they're still paying for it because they can't get a job. This is saying, look, after 10 years of being clean, let's move on. And I think that's very, very important. So those are some good things that you don't necessarily hear about because COVID kind of sucks the oxygen out of the room. Two other quick things. A lot of discussion about the upcoming election, and we did pass the bill, and it's now headed to the governor, that would allow our locals in certain jurisdictions of size to open, and I shouldn't say open, to prepare any mail-in ballots the day before, which takes them out of their mailing envelope, but keeps them in their secrecy envelope. Just helps speed up the process. So that's good news. Also will allow these counters to work in shifts, so that if it does take longer, they don't have to be there for 36 hours. They can come in and shift. So and it's for this election only. Those rules are for this election only, because let's see what happens. Then we can adjust as we move forward. Now, jumping to another, the Court of Claims ruled that said jurisdictions now have to wait 14 days to get to see anything postmarked the 2nd. 14 days, 2 weeks after the election. They're saying you could still drop off a ballot. I believe there is some personal responsibility there. And that goes against state law. But this Court of Claims judge decided to do her own thing and create her own rule or law for this election. So our Secretary of State and our Attorney General did not appeal this ruling, even though it goes against Michigan law, but it fits their thought process, so they didn't do anything with it. So the Michigan Republican Party and the National Republican Party have sued, asking to reconsider this or move it to the next level and allow us to have some say, since no one is defending Michigan law. Our Attorney General, who should be defending Michigan law, is not. So when people say, why aren't you pushing back? Why aren't you doing that? We are. And this is a case of that, where the Michigan Republican Party is suing because no one is defending our law. The people who are supposed to be aren't. So just so you know. The other thing you should know is people have been calling and asking, the Michigan Unlock Michigan petition has reached its 500,000 signatures. If you've got any, get them back in, okay? Get them back in so that we can get them to the Secretary of State and keep that moving. So that's what I got for you tonight. Kind of a lot of little things in there, but I think all important. So enjoy your weekend. I'm going to enjoy that barbecue I'm going to head out to here shortly. So take care and have a good night. We'll talk to you again on Monday.